Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and I am proud tonight to bring you Brian's Drive-In Theater, which will soon be celebrating its 26th year. Greetings and welcome, Brian. How are you?
I'm well tonight, Hercules. How are you this evening?
I'm doing very well. I'm feeling a lot better, and
Good.
there's a mountain of things to do, and I started doing it, so that's making me feel better as well. Thank you
It's
for
nice.
asking.
It's nice to be able to check things off your to-do list. I will
Yeah.
say that it does give you some sort of a perverse satisfaction. It does me anyway. And even if sometimes if I do a task around the house, but it wasn't on my to-do list, but I've already done it, I'll still put it on the list so I can cross it off.
I've done that too.
It's like, oh, look at what I did. I accomplished something.
And I'm looking forward to today's topic. It touches upon some areas of concern to any and all who are trying to establish a presence or fulfill their divine mission online.
Yes, and that is a much different animal than it was, oh, let's say 25 or 26 years ago when I first started the website. But that's not to say that, you know, I built the website just to join affiliate programs, and that's what you and I were discussing right before we came on
Mhm.
tonight. And I will say that years ago, when the internet really didn't have that much content, and you'll remember back in the '90s when you were doing an internet search, anything slightly esoteric just wouldn't come up.
Right.
You just couldn't find any information on it. And there were some corporations out there that were trying to encourage people to post any kind of content, and that's where my website really comes from. Uh, and it was one of those websites. It was called Tripod, um, and they were giving out essentially free websites. They were all the storage was free. They didn't really give you a whole lot of help with it, but that's what that's really on your own anyway.
Uh-huh.
They did have a very simple editor, but you couldn't do the things that you wanted to do with their editor. But it gave you a taste of it. What your appetite for it. Um, Nowadays, of course, there are billions of websites out there. Um, Believe it or not, my website, once upon a time, and this was a long time ago, was in the top 50,000 in terms of traffic.
I
But
believe.
that was probably like 2000, 2001, when there were probably only about 50,000 websites now that I think about it. But it got really respectable traffic. And I think it was because there just wasn't, anything else out there. And there for a while, a number of B movie websites popped up. Um, the B Monster, which I loved, and the content for B Monster is still up, but it hasn't been updated for, I'll bet, 15, 16, 17 years. It's been a long time since it's been updated. At least the last time I checked with it, they hadn't added any new content for a long time. It's a beautifully designed website too. It looks great. Even though it's old, it still looks good. So that tells you something.
Mhm.
Mine's gone. I'm a terrible webmaster though. Mine's gone through, several changes here and there, but those are always limited by what I can do design wise. I've got a really good friend that I ran into today who works for Amazon Web Services, and he does design. And he's got to throw me a bone or something. I think I'm going to ambush him and say, "Hey, look, Tim, what can I do? This How can I make the front page better?" Which I hate the front page right now. That's one of the things I am going to do for the new year is to create some sort of different layout for the index page or the main page at the drive-in. I'm fairly happy with the layout on the actor pages. They're long. There's a lot to scroll through, but the part of that's because the text on it is so large. But on the other hand, I could read the text without my glasses, so that's a
That's
big.
important.
It's sort of the large print version. And I, I still get respectable traffic. So I mean,
It's still a great site, and there are other sites now also, but it's still a very
so
popular site, and you're very popular on Facebook as well. And I know whenever I post a link to your sites, whether it be on Facebook or on the internet, it gets lots of likes and people leave comments. So, your shrine is still attracting many aficionados.
now one thing that I haven't been, well, there's been a lot of things I haven't been very good with, but one thing that I've been really terrible at is marketing the website. And when I say marketing, I don't mean that I want more people to come into the website so I'll make more money, because as I was fetching to you earlier, I'm down to one affiliate program now on the website, and that's Google AdSense. I am removing any and all traces of my Amazon affiliate because it looks like to me that Amazon's phasing out its affiliate program, and the links that I used to post to Amazon, they no longer serve, and they don't want to serve me anything other than a text link anymore. If you want something more creative, a better way to work it into your content, you have to have decent coding skills, which most of us who are doing this on our own don't have those kinds of skills. I certainly don't. You know, and it just seems like to me that a lot of the other affiliate programs that I used to be affiliated with, and some of these included Commission Junction, which is still around, but I think it's called CJ now. Another one which I loved, was Movie Goods. Movie Goods used to sell vintage movie posters, lobby cards, window cards. I used to buy gobs of stuff from Movie Goods. They had a decent affiliate program too. They profit shared pretty nicely, as I recall. I think they gave you like 8 or 9%, which is not bad.
Wow.
But yeah, that's not bad. Another one that I loved, which paid the bills for a while, was Movies Unlimited. I was affiliated with them for a long time, and they were wonderful to work with. It was a real shame when Movies Unlimited got sold off. Movies Unlimited as a business is still there, unlike Movie Goods, sadly. But in Movies Unlimited is still a great resource for anybody who is looking for anything hard to find or more information. It's a great resource for people who can't remember an exact title, but can remember plot points, locations, maybe even an actor or two. You can't ways that you can search for things that you can't really do that on Amazon. It does give you another resource there. And like I said, now I'm down to AdSense, and you know, I do want to do a better job marketing the website, but I just want to make sure that it stays out there. I update it every day, and as a matter of fact, I've been knee deep in it every day for the last week, removing the links to Amazon. I'm not hating on Amazon or anything. It's just time for the two of us to move on.
I was an Amazon affiliate also when I was,
Amazon never paid very well
yeah,
either. I
they
mean,
never paid
it,
very
it was it was always the weak sister. Even when I was still affiliated with Movie Goods and All Posters, they paid way more. I mean, I made way more money with them than I ever made with Amazon. Now, Movies Unlimited was the top. I mean, they paid really well. Uh,
I even tried writing books on Amazon
mm,
to support what I'm doing, and I
the
wrote
only person
books
from the only person who makes money with Amazon is
on
Jeff
Amazon.
Bezos. Everybody else is losing money. We're just handing money to him, and that goes if you're a buyer or a seller.
Yeah, I finally I started after I wrote those books. I started publishing in anthologies, paranormal anthologies, and they're
Hmm.
print, and my name's in there, and I have an Amazon authors page and a Goodreads page. But I still occasionally sell some of my Amazon books because I get these reports that I'm doing well in Japan. So,
Oh.
but I don't think I've seen a penny from these for like a decade now. So.
Yeah, but to tell you the truth, Yeah, that's not why I'm doing it anyway.
Uh-huh.
I'd still have the same number of pages, you know, if I had never joined any affiliate program. I I think it probably did encourage me to build, more faster. Um, Something that I haven't done for a while, and that I do want to do is I want to start adding new content, new actor pages, and so forth. But I just need to get around to it, and I will do that after I go through the entire website to remove all of the Amazon information. Uh, it's been going faster than I thought it would be, but as I go through it, and when you're editing something, it can really be a time suck, and
Yes.
and a black hole too, because you can just, or I should say, a rabbit hole, really. You can spend a whole lot of time making very, very minor improvements on something that nobody's going to look at. So you have to take it with a grain of salt. But you find little issues here and there, or something you'll want to move, or I'll even look at a sentence and think, "Gosh, it's really clunky. It's a clunky construct. I need to fix this." Um, so I've been doing little things like that, but I've gotten through, that is, about a third of the website in a week, and
Wow.
that's good
That
for
that
me.
is a lot.
Well, when I did that update a couple of years ago, I tried to do a better job standardizing the code, and
Mm-hmm.
and my code has gone through a lot of different vintages over the years, and that last redo really helped has really helped in pulling the Amazon content out, because I know exactly where it's at in the code, and I can just go directly to it and zap it. So I mean, that's been nice, and I was really glad that I did go through a couple of years ago and standardize everything. It makes it much easier, for me at least, because I get into a rhythm of how I was writing code 2 years ago, and then I can understand it, and it makes sense to me. Like I said, I'm not up on code at all. And everything that you see on my website now, you could pretty much do in the late 90s. Pretty much. The code's different now. And I try to be World Wide Web Consortium compliant at all times, for accessibility's sake, and for the sake of just being able to have the website look the same across different browsers.
I
And
remember the nightmare of struggling with that way back, that
it's much easier now. Yeah,
it
but
looked
way back,
different on a
it was
phone than it
bad.
did on the screen, and then depending on what type of screen and what type of it was a nightmare. And people were showing me how my website looked on their phone, and like the words were all jumbled up over the pictures, and
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's a lot better. It's, that part of it's a lot better now. And there's some other things that I want to do with the website this year, but the big one is, I may be affiliate free here before too long. Um, Not that I've been with Google AdSense for a while, but Google AdSense, I think, really works for people who are churning out content for YouTube, which I'm not doing it for the sake of impressions or anything like that, but I'm going to start doing some of that myself this year.
that is awesome.
Well, I need to stop talking about it and get up and do it, I guess. But I've got time right now, and I want to use that time to sort of establish the routine of it. I have to learn a couple of things first before I start doing this. I want it to look as polished as I can make it look. We'll see about that, though. Might need to invest in a couple of things, but that's okay. Um, I do want to continue, though. What the whole point of my ranting about Amazon's affiliate program is this: it's been really good for me to go back and go through every page and make sure that everything is consistent. And like I said, I have found little errors, things that need to be corrected and so forth. So that level of you know trying to be a decent webmaster, I guess, I think has really helped the website just in tiny, tiny little ways. But tightening up a little space here, or maybe seeing a broken link to an image on one of the pages. It just looks better if everything's working properly. If you see, images that won't come up anymore, or dead links, that looks bad, for your website, and it makes your website look really old, and clearly not taken care of. And that this has really been good for me, though, to go through the whole website and to try to rework things and to think about, where I want to take the website this year. And I do want to do a better job marketing it, and see if I can't get it to grow some more. It grew really fast there for a while, and then unfortunately, through no fault of its own, I got busy. you know, and when you get busy with something, which was my career at the time, I just something had to go, and I just stopped, producing new
Right.
content, and that's what I want to get back to as well. I want to create something new. I want to do something. It's still in the same spirit, of the. I was using the wrong hand of the website, but I just want to make it look. I want to keep it looking, gosh, contemporary vintage, I guess might be a good way to put it. To try to stay within, the usual norms that you find in other information-based websites, in terms of services available and things like that, and keeping things in the same place.
That sounds fantastic, and I'm looking forward to the new permutations and expansions from what you're already doing, because what you're doing is phenomenal, and I'm a big fan. So I'm really excited by all these projects that are coming in the near future.
One thing that I do need to work on with my website is, and I don't know how I would do it, but it is if I need to change something on every page, I have to go. It depends on what I'm changing. But if it's a certain type of content, I have to go into every page to do it. I would like to find a way to automate that a little better. If it's a content change, if it's a photograph or something like that, you kind of understand that. But I can do subtle things with not the background so much, because those are tailored for every individual page. But for the overall site layout, with the information at the top, with links and forwarding links and links to other web pages within the site, I can change things like that. Through the style sheet. That's pretty easy to do. And I do need to perk it up here and there. And maybe I'll have some more time to, maybe I can take an OSHA class or something like that on advanced HTML coding, or HTML coding in the new millennium. That might be helpful. It'd be fun to teach. It would be fun to take a class. I've been teaching classes for God, I don't know how many years. It would almost be refreshing to be on the other side of the desk.
Yeah, that would be refreshing. At least if it's an adventure, if it's a new adventure. I'm finding now in my mid 60s that there are adventures seeking me out that I didn't intend on pursuing. But once I started dealing with the adventure, it's like, this isn't that bad. It's changed how I thought of things, or how I decided to do things. So you never know. This might be just what you need to shake things up a little bit and get a different perspective, and a different map.
Well, or teaching an old dog a new trick. I think you actually think you can. Um, it's probably easier to teach, you or me something, because we've had to learn our whole lives. So yeah, a lot of it depends on the instruction, really, and the willingness to learn. I think that's probably the biggest one. And I am going to have to hone my skills, a bit more, because somebody, I can't remember what the circumstance was, but somebody had, one of my Facebook followers had sent me kind of a wish list of things, and one of them was for me to dress the website up a little more, at least the frontispiece page, the index page, to make it look more like a drive-in, and that's been on my radar from the very beginning. And from the very beginning, I couldn't make it work. And I actually did have kind of a prototype HTML page for a while that did have, a kind of a drive-in theater screen that I had, completely drawn from scratch in Adobe.
Oh, wow.
And I could probably find it, actually, since I went through all my files and cleaned everything up, which took weeks. But I found a lot of stuff that I can still access with Adobe Photoshop, even though they're like 15, 20-year-old files at this point. So who knows? Maybe I'll try to dress it up that way. But it helps to keep. You have to keep changing it. You have to keep taking it in a different direction. And I've been bad about just letting it languish for so long, for years, pretty much with the same layout. And even though the new layout is not that much different, I think it's been a big help. It's not new anymore. It's like 2 years old. It's still new.
I remember the conversations when you were building it. It doesn't seem like it seems like yesterday. It doesn't seem like 3 years ago. But yeah, it's been around that long.
Well, it took me a while to kind of land on I didn't really, instead of sketching something out, it usually works best for me just to go ahead, jump in, especially with code. I'll just copy code over to a different page and play with it till I can figure out what I want to do with it. That took me probably a month, just to figure out what I wanted it to look like. And then getting it to look like what I wanted it to look like probably took me another month to figure out exactly how to write the code so that everything wasn't jumbled up, and everything was compliant with different browsers that people might be using, the Safari, Chrome, Edge, Mozilla. This seem to be the big four anymore.
Are you planning? I know you prefer the classics to some of the new movies, but did you ever think of doing like a neo peplum or a neo superhero or neo science fiction, like a contrast type page here and there, or no?
Probably not, because I'm not. I mean, what I know are B movies, and these movies, the ones you're talking about, really aren't B movies anymore.
Right.
And I haven't seen them, and I don't feel comfortable talking about them because I just don't know enough about them. Does that make sense?
Yes, that
Okay.
makes a lot of
All
sense.
right. I've been teaching writing courses forever, and one of the first things that we tell incoming freshmen students is that you have to know what you're writing about, because if you don't, it's going to come out garbage. It's going to be
Yeah.
garbage. And that goes for speech as well. If you have a really firm grasp on your subject matter, no matter how nervous you are, you'll probably get through it okay because you know what you're talking about. But if you're at sea, uh, it's going to come out as junk, and that would be my big hesitation.
Yeah, I had an awakening, um, like kind of like with an opposite perspective. I was giving a speech once to a bunch of doctors in the hospital or auditorium, because I spent a lot of my career working in hospitals and mostly in the field of psychiatric rehabilitation, or vocational rehabilitation. I used to design internship programs and do things like that. So I wrote up all these things down, my notes on my table before me, and I'm addressing the doctors. Then I noticed that pages of my notes are missing.
Mm. Oh,
So I, yeah, for a second I got upset, but it's like I can't stop here. So I just kept talking. And I kept talking. I'm sure I touched upon some of the points that were written there, but there were pages of them. So after this talk, the doctors were coming up to me telling me that that was, a really great talk, and they were referring specifically to certain points I made and so forth. And then I realized that they never read the pages that I intended to speak about. And so they don't know that I forgot like big chunks of, what I had to teach. But based on what I gave them, it was new and fresh and interesting enough where they got something out of it. So that understanding has gotten me out of more jams with speaking than just about anything else. Like your listener doesn't know. You're not rehearsing a scene from a play or a film or something. This is like live conversation, So as long as you can convey information, if you forgot stuff, now you have something else you could talk about at another time with these people who didn't get to hear that one.
Exactly. Yes. Something that odd that happened to me, oh golly, this is probably about 10 years ago. Um, in my former career, not only did I teach, but I also would address incoming students during new student orientation. And we talked to almost everybody who came through the door too. So it was a lot, you know. It was every day, anywhere from 45 to 60 minutes in the morning, and then in the afternoon you were talking to people individually. It was a lot of presentations, a lot of talk. Well, we used to have a really sizable international student population here, over 2,000 international students.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it was a big part of our campus, they need special help. They've just come into the country. Nothing looks familiar to them. And this is, really, they're expecting New York or Los Angeles, and then they get to Hooterville. Uh, so they need some special help and some advice, here and there. During international student orientation, and they do that right before they used to do it right before the semester began, because that's when all the international students had finally gotten to town, right before the semester began. So a lot of what they experienced at orientation was just people hurling information at them, and I was one of the people who was supposed to hurl information at them and to help them find certain things around town. The housing, was a big thing as well. They needed places, to live, and some of them would come and didn't have anything to live in, so you had to do what you could for them. Anyway, I was put on the roster for international new student orientation as filler. Just between programs, they would have, those of us who were in charge of a particular thing at the university come in and just say,
Uh-huh.
hey, I'm here. This is what I do. If you need anything, just come and see me. My office is right across the street, blah, blah, blah. And as the dean to whom I reported was right in front of me, and she was filler too. The two organizers of international new student orientation ran over to us and said, we goofed on the schedule and we've got an hour and 15 minutes to kill. And Kim and I were at the very end. We were the last two filler talkers before they were supposed to move on to a different program that unfortunately they didn't have. So my dean got up to the front, just said, hey, I'm Kim. I'm across the street if you need anything. And then peaced out. And then I'm there. The people from International NSO are like, help us, help us. And my graduate assistant was also there. So he and I went for an hour and 15 minutes talking I sent him out into the audience. We did have a microphone, thankfully, so that really helped. We answered a lot of their questions about town and where to buy groceries and things to avoid. It was, I, the organizers were really happy that we could do that, but he was really talkative too, as I am. So between the two of us, we burned that hour and 15 minutes like nothing.
That
I,
is that
I
is
was shocked.
awesome.
Well, Cindy started cutting me off, and I'm like, what? I'm filling your time. And I was like, oh my God, we really did. We went 75 minutes. So, but we got the students, we got them talking,
Mm-hmm.
asking questions, questions on redirect. So they were listening. We worked the whole audience, through and through. And I don't know if it helped them or not, but it burned an hour and 15 minutes of their time.
And gave them something useful and practical, because
They
they
did.
had those
Okay.
questions, and you know that because you've been doing this for a long time. So you went in there and answered all those questions. So that is
We
awesome.
we did, and like I said, you when you when you think about a country that you've never been to, you always think about the postcard photos, the souvenir postcards that you've seen from those areas. When you think of Spain, you think of um, oh gosh, there's a lot of places in Spain to think of now that I think about it. When you think of Italy, you think of Rome, or
Mhm.
Venice or something like that. And every country has its own Gary, Indiana. Yeah, every country has its own. Like Barcelona, oh my God, in Spain, it has it's, part of it is just not very nice. Um, so every country has its underbelly, areas that don't look that great. Yeah. But when you think about those countries, you think, oh, big city, beautiful sights. And like I said, with America, a lot of students are either thinking like Grand Canyon, national, monuments, things like that, or when they're thinking about cities, they're thinking New York or LA, just
Mhm.
essentially, and which are fabulous cities. I mean, you've lived in or around New York your whole life, right?
Yeah, for
Most,
much of my life, except for like 10 years when I lived in Pennsylvania. Most of my life was spent in New York City or New Jersey, mostly in Bergen County.
oh wow, okay. So these people are looking for that. And I know you've never been to the town where I live, and it's not a bad town by any means. It's a very typical college town, to tell you the truth. But they get here and it's small. Uh, so we do have really good public transportation here, which is free to our students to use as long as they have their student ID. And it will get them all. They're buses, and it will get them all over town. It'll take them to every shopping area, every supermarket that we've got.
Hmm.
So, but you have to explain that, to them and explain where they can access the information so they can figure out which bus lines they need to be on and so forth. There's a learning curve there, but forgot where I was going with that rambling at this point. It's like I'm talking to a bunch of
Well,
international
we,
students, and
we
so,
were talking about being filler and then filling the uh
but and
in a good
I
way.
don't mind being. I used to work with people who really resented being filler. And I never minded it because at least if you were trying to promote your service or promote your program, within a bigger organization, you need to get in front of people, right?
Right.
Right. And that's how I got in front of people was to say, yeah, I'll be filler for you. Fine. Let me talk to these kids. And it was the best opportunity. It helped us promote so much just by doing things like that. And I did a lot of it. And yeah, I was filler, sure. I mean, I would go into what was essentially our orientation classes. It had been called first year seminar at one point. I'm not really sure what it's called now, but they're essentially 1 or 2 hour credit orientation courses for your particular major. I got into as many of those as I could, and the instructors weren't being paid to teach those classes essentially, so they didn't mind if you came in and monopolized 50 minutes of their students time.
Uh-huh.
In fact, they would ask you, repeatedly, if you did it one semester, they would usually ask me back before I would ask to see if I could go the next semester.
I remember when I used to teach, and I remember I was teaching in a local college, well, not local to me anymore, but local to me at the time. I was living in Queens, New
Oh, okay.
York. But I've been teaching a class, and I guess they got complaints by some of the students in terms of how I was teaching the class. So they
Hmm.
sent somebody to attend my class.
Hmm.
So um, the person sat in the class, and then at the end of the class, they approached me and they said that they were sent to observe my class. And so great, so what do you think? And she said that for the first 10 minutes, she had absolutely no idea what I was doing or why I was doing it. But then by the end of the class, she saw that not only had I covered everything that I was supposed to cover during that day, but that I did it just by seemingly having random conversations with people in the class. And then the answers were coming out of their mouths. So I wasn't writing on the blackboard and doing
Hmm.
things like that. I was getting them engaged in the conversation, asking them what they think and what would they do. And all the information I needed to teach was coming out that way. And I more than covered everything, and I got into other like areas. So I got a good, whatever that test was, I passed it. But I like doing things in an unorthodox way, and I also like teaching what I know and learning from other people. So I've enjoyed a long career in educational institutions as well, and yeah, it is very satisfying. And I've never minded when I come into a class being asked by the teacher to talk about something for whatever amount of time they want me to talk about it.
Right.
And yeah, they're always grateful because it's less they have to talk about.
Hmm. Yeah, interestingly, on the college level, I have found some people who really don't like to teach. And I keep thinking, God, why did you pick this as a
Why'd you
career?
pick up a teacher? Yeah.
And oftentimes, it depends on the discipline. But with some fields of study, they attract people who really like the research end of it, but don't like the interpersonal end
Mhm.
of it. And I keep thinking, gosh, this is so perverse. You should be worried much more about what these kids are learning, and you should help them, learn because they're going to be, directing your discipline before too much longer. You need to help them out, And I just keep thinking, why are you doing this if you don't want to teach? It doesn't make sense.
Uh-huh.
It just I understand liking the research and want to, that you stumble upon a concept that really hadn't occurred to you or anybody else. Yeah, you want to explore it further. That's great, but you still got 50 kids to teach
Yeah.
in this class in half an hour, and that's your primary responsibility right now. At least that's my way of thinking, but that is not the way of thinking at a lot of universities, unfortunately.
Yeah, I used to grade
Looking for
generously too, because to accommodate different people's learning styles, because not everybody learns the same way. So I would always try to address the different learning styles by teaching in a different way. And that didn't produce the regular uh, curve, the bell curve.
Mhm.
In terms of grades, because I was doing it on a lot of different levels, and some people learn one way, some people learn another. So I try to accommodate all these different ways. So because it was conversation, a lot of the kids again were engaged, and they weren't just like silently snoring at their desks while I wrote on the board. But that didn't produce the regular grading curve. So I had to make accommodations for that as well during.
Well, yeah, and that's a very important thing, to teach your students is that you have to engage your audience.
Mhm.
If your students are just sitting there, like this, well, that's a problem, and it's not their problem. Actually, it's your problem because you're at the front of the class. So it's up to you to wake them up, and different people have different ways to do that. I've seen professors who have a sort of grumpy but avuncular attitude, which students oddly grasp onto and seem to like, which is kind of weird. But I don't think that's my tack, what I'm trying to teach. I try to be mindful not to talk down to students
Right.
because there again, I've found that unfortunately some of my colleagues do that. And these are very learned people. I could, and they're in, it's academia. I guess I get it. but there again, you're working with, young learners, newly minted adults who are really, I don't, this sounds so stupid, but they're young and impressionable right now.
Mhm.
And if you present yourself in that way and legitimize it in any way, that makes them think that, oh, it's okay to be a complete asshole to somebody
Right.
if you have two more cents than they do, or if you know something that they don't. And no, it does not give you doesn't give you that permission at all. So yeah, I try to make students aware that I'm very approachable. I do work with them, individually and in groups. It's usually I do a lot of group work. Collaborative learning is what we call it, but it's group work. But it's the same type of group work that you have to do on the job. I mean, how many different task forces and committees have you been on? Because I've been on a lot of them,
Me too.
and it's essentially group work. And the same problems with group work in a college class crop up out in industry and otherwise in real life too. And you have to learn how to work with people, even people who don't want to work or want to be obstinate. You still have to work with them, or at least go around them. It's a skill. You have to figure out how to deal with unpleasant people.
So I think your learning and teaching new things is a excellent idea, and I'm sure you'll be great at it and you'll have a lot of fun with it.
Well, I've got some new things to learn this year. Let me tell you, it's one of the reasons why I wanted the semester off. Um, and there's some obviously there's some HTML code that I some tricks out there that I need to learn. But there are other things too. More practical things. There's got a couple of projects around the house that are going to require some skills that I haven't used for a long time. So that ought to be interesting.
I'm looking forward to hearing about it.
Well, as long as I don't cut off any digits or anything, I'll probably. I'm feeling a lot better too. I was wrestling with arthritis. Really had a really bad bout with it there for, I don't know, like 18 months or so. But I'm moving around a lot better, and I can do things now that I couldn't do this time last year.
Oh, awesome.
Physically, Well, I mean, I could do them, but it hurt a lot. I guess that's a better way to put it. But it doesn't hurt as much now, thankfully.
I'm wrestling with a lot of arthritis things too in my spinal area. So
I,
my mobility is greatly reduced, but I fight it uh, or try to
well,
find ways around it every single day.
I when I was a kid, I used to hear older people complain about arthritis, and I always thought back then, come on, just take a couple of aspirin, but we get through it, granny. But there's nothing that can mess up your day worse than joints that just gave up and don't want to move anymore. You know what I mean? It can put a damper on your whole life.
Yes.
It causes great depression, if you ask me. Your body gets so tired from fighting it that you're just exhausted all the time.
Mhm.
And I think that's what leads to the depression, at least for me. And you feel bad. So I think that also leads to more depression. And I'm not a depressive personality at all. But I mean, gosh, I mean, it just, like I said, it can just ruin your life, and it can happen overnight too. With me, it was just a little things here and there, and then all of a sudden, one day, I just couldn't move.
I can certainly sympathize. We were Athena was driving the other day, and I was in the passenger section. Then we stopped at one of those little areas where there were a bunch of stores to do some shopping, and next to us was like a pickup truck, and there was an older gentleman in there, and he was having a difficult time getting out of the door. And so that's something I've been experiencing lately too, just having a difficult time getting out of a car door. So as he got out of the door and finally stood on his feet, he goes, "Getting old sucks." And I, and I agreed. I said, "Yes, indeed, it does." Uh, but you got to do what you got to do. And even though I guess I'm not as graceful as I once was, I can still move around. I'm grateful for that.
Well, we had talked about buying a Corvette. Um, we're old guys now, and old guys, seem to like Corvettes. And we talked about buying one, and I put Greg in one, and it was like a turtle on its back, trying to get out of it. It was just kind of like, and you sit in them, and you're basically horizontal.
Uh-huh.
You're directly out. They're on the same plane with your nipples. So you're just like this. And I can still sort of climb out of situations like that, but he was just so. Needless to say, no Corvette. Uh, think we're going to stick with Mustangs. There we go.
And on that note, we're approaching the end of our program. And you've given me several movie ideas. One of my things I want to do is make another movie.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think it would be very interesting to have like maybe a retired barbarian or something all of a sudden has to get ready for like a great quest. It's been done at least twice that I know of, once in comic book form, once in book form. But why not make a low budget movie about it as well? And I remembered something as you were talking too. Popeye, they're making a low budget Popeye movie.
Well, isn't or didn't one of the first Popeye cartoon, didn't that enter public domain, or isn't it about to?
I think so because all of a sudden, like I heard some in some videos that The Rock was considering being Popeye, and then they had a clip from a Popeye movie that is coming out next year from one of these companies that made inexpensive versions. Like when The Mummy came out, they made Mummy movies. When the Barbarian stuff came out, they made Barbarian movies. Like on the cheap. So
Hmm.
they're making a Popeye movie on the cheap, and it was very interesting because they had Popeye facing like Alice the Goon, one of the goons.
Yeah.
So, and he looked like an action hero, Popeye. He didn't look like a scrawny
Oh,
runt. So they took a different turn with Popeye, and he met with Cole Oil, who had a map. So
well, is
Cole
Popeye going to have a
Oil was,
pipe?
yeah, he had a pipe.
Really? Now that surprises me because I'm not saying we should all smoke anymore, but there's been such a big movement, anti-smoking. So I'd be surprised if he still had a pipe.
Yeah, they had Popeye with a pipe in one of the shots. So
Okay.
it's a low budget horror type movie. So
Oh, okay, okay. So it doesn't have to be PC. Okay.
no, those,
Gotcha. Well, then maybe he can put something in his pipe.
and I'm
Maybe.
gonna watch it. And I told Athena about it, and she wants to watch it too. And I found the clip, and she liked the clip too. So something to look forward to.
Well, just I know we only have a minute left, but one of the things that I got, Greg's a big Popeye fan, and you can watch a lot of the old restored Popeye cartoons on Tune In With Me Monday through Friday
Oh
from
wow.
7 to 8 a.m. on MeTV.
I was a
Um,
big Popeye fan when I was a little kid. He was the first cartoon I really liked.
well, he likes Popeye a lot too, and on MeTV's mall, their online store. I got Greg these tiki mugs. They're ceramic, and one is Popeye and one is Bluto.
Oh wow.
And they are so cool. They're bigger than what I thought they would be when I ordered them. I thought they would be like this tall, and they're actually like this tall. They're
Oh
kind of
wow.
they're cute. They're nicely made. And on the back, it says that you can get like Wimpy and Sweet Pea and Alice the Goon is one of and Olive Oil. And I can't find them anywhere. The only ones I can find are Popeye and Bluto.
So you have a quest now.
Yeah, and I'm normally not a collect set kind of guy, but these things are really cool. So who knows? Maybe we will.
We'll do a show on that when you find as you go
Okay.
on your quest.
Well, my house is collectible heaven or hell, depending on how you're. how you look at it.
I'm
Or
sure I have much less than you in collectibles, but my house is pretty much maybe like collector's purgatory. Not exactly heaven or hell, but somewhere in between. How can people find Brian's Drive-In Theater? How can people communicate with you on Facebook? How can people, basically enter the world that you've created?
Well, and this world is ever evolving apparently, but some things stay the same, such as the URL briansdriveintheater.com. So you can point any browser uh, to the drive-in, and it should be looking pretty standard at this point. If you want to interact with me on social media, the only social media that I'm currently very active with is Facebook. And you can run a search for Brian's Drive-In Theater and find me on Facebook. I am on Twitter, but I only lurk. So,
And you're also on X, but not.
oh, I called it Twitter, didn't I? Yes, sorry. Yes, I am on X, but do not tweet or X or whatever it is that we're doing on Twitter these or X these days.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed our conversation as always. I wish you very happy adventures as you move forth evolving your site. Say hi to Greg.
I'll
And
do that.
there was something I wanted to share with you, but I don't remember what it is right now. So next time.
Sure. Or very well. Well, have a good evening, Hercules, and thank you very much.
Okay, you too. And thank you to our wonderful audience for tuning in. Until next time, this is us wishing you awesome adventures and a happy and healthy new year.
Good night.
Good night.